about who we are. So as I mentioned, we are a group of volunteers who have came together with just using social media, basically. So our platform was WhatsApp, but we've been engaging on that topic for a long time now and trying to bring up the expertise of different experts within the field of urban development, infrastructure, looking into building codes, looking into professional practice, procurement and contracts, but also education and training. So all of these sectors, we have specialized group, so in working on each and every sector. And then from here, this is just a quick map to show you where are we across the globe. And that's our network of architects, engineers, urban planners, and many other sectors. Here, this is actual structure of how do we work, or the actual group that we work under, or the different umbrellas. So you will see starting from urban planning, and just let me know, please, if there is anything that I need to translate into Arabic, or if I need to go to it. But I'm trying to put the presentation in both Arabic and English, so it will be clear for everyone. So these are the different sectors, but where we work under it is actually here. So we are looking into the settlements of the refugees and IDPs. How can we support with the actual understanding of the problem? Where do we build those settlements? How, where, and when, and what are actually the patterns of the displacement, and how can we decide on the best solutions, or what we call the durable solutions? Here, this is our aim. So we are aiming to develop a structural framework and an action plan for Sudan displacement settlements that can support and implement resilient and sustainable durable solutions. I know it's two big words, but they are very significantly important. So we are looking into all global frameworks, the SDGs, we're looking into other frameworks, the Isaac frameworks for durable solutions, etc. But I'm trying to take them from the national level or the global level into the local level. And as I mentioned, we are trying to, that structural framework that we are developing and action plan is aligned with the Ministry of Urban Development, Infrastructure, Transportation, but also the Ministry of Labour and Social Development. هل بحتاج إنه أترجم للعربي ولا واضحة السلايدز؟ excellent. طيب, our objectives, these are the main objectives, but I will wrap them very quickly. So we're looking into key 5 or 6 areas: the displacement patterns, drivers, the legislation. So what are the laws and legislations that are existing in Sudan? How are they implemented? If not, what are the challenges, and what are the key, I would say, elements that we can apply in order to implement them on the ground? But then also understanding the socioeconomic perspectives and the perceptions of the peoples themselves. So what are the challenges and opportunities from the people's eyes, not us as experts, looking into what are examples of displacement durable solutions, and how can we end up developing this action plan, all of us together with your expertise and knowledge. Definitely you can't read through that slide, but I will definitely be happy to share it with you. This is just showing the mechanism or the methodology of the work that we've been doing. So identifying the challenges first, prioritizing them, and then starting with the design and implementation and coming up with the last deliverables. But along that line, we're working onto activities, outputs, and outcomes. Here, this is another way also to showcase our methodology, because as I mentioned, we are working basically focused on social media and having regular weekly meetings. But this was our main working platform. So we were using the Trello board. It's one of the softwares that was very useful in terms of project management and looking into how do we really achieve each and every action or activity at a certain scale of time within 1 or 2 weeks, depending on the different actions that we are trying to achieve, but also the expertise and the different knowledge of the team members. Here, starting with our investigation, so we started looking into what are the patterns of internal displacement in Sudan. You would notice that the report starts from 2003. That's not when the displacement started, but this when the most, I would say, evidence-based reports that we've been looking at by the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center, and we try to build whatever the document or the reports that we come up with on an evidence-based documents and policies. But that goes on, and we are trying here. I'm not going to go through the details. Maybe within the discussion we will come into that. But there is very interesting influxes in terms of numbers that really get to make us question where the numbers come from, and is actually this data as validated as required on the ground? Because you would notice that with the separation, for example, of the South Sudan, the numbers have been reduced, the global numbers of Sudan internal displacement, but that does not mean that this is counting the number of, for example, the people within the cities, because that's what we call them, that they're off the record. So it's very important that we really question those numbers and try to come with more validated data. Here again, just showcasing the different reports, so it's just a reflection, more of a visual one about the reports that we have reviewed. Another map, again, just showing how the displacement patterns work, but interestingly, that there is not that much of focus here, although we know, and we face that on daily basis, what is going in Khartoum and what's going in capital cities across Sudan. So it's very important that we understand not only the patterns, but the drivers as well. So we will come into questioning later on within the discussion and the workshop about the drivers. So is it only war? Is it climate change? Is it, so there is a lot of elements that are actually combined but also complicated. So we are looking into, as I mentioned, not only war, disasters, global temperatures in terms of climate change, how does that lead into conflict or lack of resources and tensions at the same time, but we are trying to link that into the global agendas in order to achieve the global target within those policies that we are putting. So we're not only focusing on one area, but taking that out into the bigger perspective, the national perspective, and trying to understand what the risks are, monitoring the data, how can we mitigate the hazards, how can we reduce the vulnerabilities of the people who are affected in order to build resilience. Then from here, we started looking into what are the policies. But again, this, and I'm speaking here from completely an academic perspective. I am not a practitioner. I haven't worked in the field. But what I only learned that these are the policies that us as Sudan or the national governments have signed or committed to. But what is the level of the commitment and what are the mechanisms of implementation? This is what we really need to be questioning. From here, we started also, so I'm highlighting some of the frameworks that we are putting as the bigger umbrella in order to develop our durable solutions, but we're trying to reflect as well, and this is going to be one of our main activities, of how can we decide on those durable solutions based on the different sectors. What is the actual status in Sudan? So is there any focus on health, or is it education? Where is shelter coming? Is it coming as a priority for the agencies and for the government, or is it coming as a third or a second priority? Here we're also looking into the challenges and opportunities, but this is something that we're going to come through in details during our workshop. These are sustainable development goals, but we are aligning them. Here it's focusing on the IDPs, but we'll also be reflecting on the refugees and how each and every goal, and then we're going into the sub-indicators, because with the indicators we will make sure that we are achieving our goals through the policies that are being proposed. And then they're looking into other different models of durable solution. How can that be applied, whether it's going to be return, integration, or resettlement? Because again, we noticed from our observations, we've done some qualitative data within developing that proposal of the policy. So we've been speaking to experts and people within the field and the government about what are the mechanisms that are being applied. And we've noticed that there is a bit of an imbalance, but this is again, it's just a hypothesis, so it's for you to provide us with the evidence and how true is that. So again, looking into the different options that we need to apply. Here, this is a very interesting project that we've been working on as part of my previous hat for the Arab Urban Development Institute, which is a resilience assessment that we applied with the Ministry of Infrastructure. That was a project, a one-year project, I think around 2018. And it was applied in 10 cities across Sudan. So we've been looking into the different regions and what is resilience, what is the understanding of resilience there. A lot of focus was, yes, as infrastructure, and unfortunately, one of the main elements that was as end result of that is here. So number 7, so societal capacity and resilience came as the lowest indicator or the lowest result. So that means that there is a lot of work that needs to be done with the community if we really are willing to build resilience and help IDPs and refugees. Again, another model that we've also been investigating, working with the QSAND, which is a model that applied by the British Planning Institute, and looking into how can that's focusing more on the options of post-disaster. So how can we go into emergency response or long-term planning, and how can integrate that within the settlements of the refugees and IDPs. Here, this is more of an analytical framework that started to shape our action plan, and it actually reads from the bottom to the top. So we're looking into the different drivers of forced displacement. Here we have conflict, but we have other elements that comes at a horizontal level. How do those elements affect the different stakeholders? Because yes, these are our targeted group, but we have other stakeholders who are involved in the process. So what does the engagement of these stakeholders mean, and at which level? But then across that here, we can see that there are shock stresses and protracted displacement. So people don't get displaced from one point to the other, but there is a process. So that process, we need to understand how many times they have been displaced, why and how, but then in order to be able to achieve our durable solutions. So I'm going to stop here, and then we'll move into, if you have any burning questions, you can go ahead. Otherwise, we can move into the second session of our workshop today.